Welcome back to FM22 Mercenary. It's a new season, we've got a new club, and we might just be able to offer you European football. So as we were finishing our last episode by winning the Romanian Cup, we still had one last hurrah with Cluj. We had to play our last league game. Typically, Gabby Debelia was in fine form, scoring a hat-trick in a 5-1 victory. And as we ended our time with Cluj, the awards started to rain in. We were named Manager of the Season. Otto Heinrich set a new league record for clean sheets. Raul Operet weighed in with more assists than any player in the competition. And finishing with 37 goals meant that Gabby Debelia broke the league scoring record. We had a clean sweep in the Player of the Season awards, and Cluj were keen to keep us, offering us several new contracts during the summer. And although there was the chance to play Champions League football if we'd stay just another couple of weeks, we knew it was time to move on. And move on we did, although it was a slightly slower summer than we've had in previous seasons. I think now that we're a higher reputation manager, we're being a little bit more picky about the jobs that we're applying for, so there's not as many out there that really pique our interest. However, there were still a few jobs that we sent our CV in for, and we got some interviews as well. And the first club to show an interest were FC Groningen in the Netherlands. They invited us for an interview that we attended, and just a couple of days later, another Eredivisie club in the form of Willem II also invited us to speak to their board. Next, we jumped over the border into Belgium to attend an interview with Ghent, before flying to the south of France to meet with Montpellier. But whilst all those jobs were in higher reputation leagues than Romania, none of them were really at a club where I thought we could challenge for honours. Until a couple of jobs became available in leagues that were a step up from Romania, but with clubs who traditionally might be able to challenge for the top spots in the league. The first of those was in Denmark with Brøndby, but there was another club without a manager that really was an interesting proposition, so we packed our bags, jumped on the plane and flew across the breadth of Europe, where we were offered an exciting job indeed. So those jobs in the Eredivisie were interesting. Montpellier did tickle my fancy, and I thought long and hard about Brøndby as well, but I think the job offer that we finally accepted was by far the most attractive proposition. Let's show you where we ended up. Most of our career has been spent in the eastern areas of Europe, but we're heading south, this time to Greece, to the city of Thessaloniki. We've set up residence in the Toumba Stadium, a 28,000 capacity arena with passionate fans and the home of PAOK Thessalonica. PAOK were undefeated double winners in 2019, but that was the last of their 3 league titles. And last season they could only manage 4th place, finishing behind city rivals Aris. This led to the sacking of Marinos Outsinidis and our appointment. Our first job will be to silence the doubters with a rival manager saying that PAOK fans will suffer now that we've been appointed. Still, we are mighty happy to be at one of Greece's top clubs, although we've inherited what could kindly be described as an ageing squad that's certainly lacking in unity, but a realistic board only desire a top half finish, as well as reaching the group stages of the Europa Conference League, the competition that we're going to kick off in today's episode. So welcome to PAOK Thessalonica, everybody. Grab your seat in the stadium. We've got a huge game today. It's going to be our first European tie of our FM22 Mercenary career. I'm very happy with this job. I think we've landed at an absolute mammoth of a football club. They may be a little bit light in terms of honours compared to some of the other clubs in Greece. Only 3 league titles, but they've won the cup 9 times. The last of those was only a season ago, and we're hoping that we might be able to mount a little bit of a charge for the title this season, although we are not a stronger club in Greek football, I think, as Cluj or either Austria Wien were in the divisions that they were playing in. It's going to be a struggle. We've got a very, very mature squad. There's not a lot of legs in there. There's some recognisable names, which we'll show you in a moment, but whether we've got a team that's versatile enough, attacking enough, and youthful enough to challenge the top sides, I'm not entirely sure. If we show you the odds for winning the title this season, you'll see that we are ranked down there in 4th place. Our local rivals Aris are more fancied than us, and Olympiakos have been one of the most successful teams in Greece over the last couple of decades, so they are by far the club that are outright favourites for the title. You can see how many titles they've won during the last decade. But we are not without hope. We've struggled to come to terms with a tactic that might work for these players. We've not looked very good in pre-season, but let's show you our squad. Let's show you how we're going to line up and how we're going to try and squeeze the most we can out of some very wrinkly performers. So let's introduce you to our tactic and then we'll go through some of our personnel. We're going to line up with a back three at PAOK, although I've said that at a couple of our other previous clubs and ditched it in favour of a back four pretty early. We'll see how it gets on during the early part of the season before we make a decision about whether we might dispense with it. I've decided to go with a back three because we do have three strong defenders, but we're also pretty strong in the fullback areas as well. And I think we've got some pretty rampaging wing backs that if we push into advanced areas, they might be able to cause some real damage for us. We've also got a glut of wide players that are pretty decent as well, but we don't have much in terms of firepower up front. So I'd like to try and play a lone striker system to try and compensate for the fact that we don't have an awful lot that could play up there alongside our leading striker. We're pretty strong in central midfield areas, and PAOK have also strengthened by bringing in 3 players on free transfers who joined shortly after we arrived. The only trouble is one of those has already been injured for quite a long time and is going to be out for potentially another 3 months. And at 34 years old, whether that will mean that we will ever see Dimitri Foulquier feature for us is a little bit open to debate. We could have done with him today because we do have another injury that's disrupted our back line a little bit. But maybe we should talk you through our players, starting with what is yet another in a conveyor belt of strong goalkeepers for us. This time it's a Croatian in the form of Carlo Latica. He is 6'7" with an aerial reach of 19. I think he could be another strong stopper for us. Coincidentally, he has spent time at Cluj as well as starting out at Hajduk Split and playing for Club Brugge in Belgium during his career. I think he could be another really solid citizen, although he is a little bit unhappy that we've rejected bids from Villarreal and he was pretty keen on moving out to La Liga. Ahead of him, we've got 3 decent defenders. I think the best of them is going to be Severe Ingi Ingerson, who's been with PAOK for a long time. He's a 33-year-old Icelandic international who's also played out in Russia, Spain, Belgium, and in Norway. He's a great leader. He's determined, has got good work rate and fabulous anticipation for a centre-half. And we're going to play him with a cover duty on, hoping that he can just sweep up behind our other 2 defenders. One of them is going to be our only Greek player in the starting 11. He's also going to be, alarmingly, our youngest player at the age of 27. That's right, late 20s, and he's the one we call Pup. He's valued anywhere up to 5.4 million. He could push up and play in front of the back 4. He's reasonably good in the air, although he's only 6'1". The worry is that his tackling is only a 10, hence why we have thought about playing him in midfield, but we're going to give him a chance in the defensive line to see whether we can make this 3-at-back system work, and he's going to be playing in that back 3 with a Spaniard by the name of Adrian Diguez, a player, again, who's got fabulous mentals. Determination and bravery are absolutely superb. He's 6'2", probably our best centre-back in the air. He's not exactly been at top clubs throughout his career in Spain. Alaves is probably the highest level he's played at, but he could be another strong player for us. If we had him available, we might even be starting Patrick William, a Brazilian, again, incredibly brave, but maybe a little bit better physically than some of our other defenders. Again, he's not played for any huge teams since moving to Europe from Brazil, but if he wasn't injured, he would probably be in our starting 11 today, as would one of our fullbacks, in the form of Moldovan Oleg Ryabchuk, a 29-year-old who has got it all physically. He's pacey, mentally he's good as well. Look how well he would get up and down that line as a fullback. His delivery wouldn't be great, but I would dearly like him in the team. Unfortunately, a pulled calf muscle has meant that he's going to be out for the best part of a month. So, in his place is going to come our usual right back, Pedro Pereira, a 29-year-old Portuguese. Again, good physically. I love the natural fitness. The delivery could be better, but he's fairly quick. And this player started out his career at Benfica before moving over to Sampdoria. He's been odd jobbing it around a little bit, including a loan spell at Bristol City. Now he's settled in at PAOK. He's going to be our starting right back, but with injuries today, he's going to move over to the left And instead, at right wing back today is going to be Juninho Bacuna, a Curaçao international and a player that spent 3 seasons at Birmingham. So anything's going to be a step up after that torture. He moved on to Crystal Palace. The board brought him in on a end of contract deal to join PAOK. He's 29 years old, so a mere spring chicken compared to some of our other players. Normally, he'd be in the central midfield, but today he's going to play as right wing back because we do have options in midfield, good ones as well. This one excites me. Ibrahima Sissoko, a 29-year-old Malian international. He's got 23 caps. He's 6'4". He is splendid in the air. He's going to work very hard in those midfield areas. He has this gets forward whenever possible player trait, which is a little bit unfortunate because most of our midfielders have that trait. And I would have liked Ibrahima Sissoko to play a more defensively cautious role, but needs must, I'm afraid. So he's going to play in there alongside Felipe Suarez, another player that gets forward whenever possible. But this is our most highly valued player, could be worth anything up to £11 million. Again, another player that started out at Benfica in Portugal before moving over to Greece. He's put in a number of seasons of service for PAOK, and he's going to be our little midfield schemer in there. And then going forward, we've got another player that the board brought in on a Bosman transfer. This is Miguel Almiron, who's exchanged the black and white stripes of Newcastle for the black and white of PAOK. He's 33 years old now. Physically, there's some question marks against him, but mentally he's strong. Surprisingly, his technical attributes aren't as good as you might hope, but today he's going to start for us. He went from Newcastle to Sampdoria. He's played 3 seasons of Serie A football. Not exactly setting the world alight out there. Maybe the Greek Super League might be more to his liking. He's going to play as a little inverted winger for us, cutting in to try and support our lone striker. And another player that we're going to play as a twin inverted winger is Maïsiane Maïlida, a French player, 28 years old. No youth caps or senior caps, but has been around at some pretty big clubs, including Lyon, Nice and Hertha Berlin. He then went out to Portugal and we've brought him in from there. He's played 2 seasons already for PAOK, has got above an average rating of a 7 in both of them. And we're hoping that as a right footer with a little bit of pace, a little bit of dribbling, and not the worst finisher in the world, he might be able to get some goals for us to support our lone front man. We might be struggling for strikers. We could play Hicham Bousefian out there, although in pre-season he didn't look great, despite the fact that he's the player that our coaches think is our leading light. I disagree. I think we've got a Gabby Debelia style player in the form of Enzo Crivelli, 32 years old now, but a great personality, some fabulous mentals. The physicals are not too bad for a player in their early 30s. He can certainly finish well, but he's going to be brave and aggressive and determined. He's going to work very hard. He could be a target forward for us. Because we are so old, we're not going to push our line up too high. We could play standard if things are really bad, but we're going to try and start out with a higher defensive line. But we're going to try and compress the middle areas of the pitch. We're not going to stretch ourselves out too much and try and press and leave too big a gap between our front play and our defence. Instead, we're going to bring these lines back a little bit and we're going to try and condense the middle areas of the pitch. We're going to have 5, 6, 7 players all trying to win the ball back, and then we're going to try and spring some quick counterattacks and try and take the opposition by surprise. We arrived at PAOK in time to play 3 pre-season friendlies, beating 2 lower league Greek sides as well as losing to Saint Etienne. But today is an altogether different proposition. Our first competitive fixture as PAOK boss is not going to be against a fellow Greek side. We're going to be kicking off our Europa Conference League campaign, and with the board wanting us to reach the group stages, this is a first vital fixture for us. For our European debut, we'll face Czech opposition from the town of Pilsen in the form of FC Victoria Pilsen. A 5th place finish last campaign qualified the club for Europe, but after just 2 games of their current season, they're already topping the table and hoping to add to their 5 domestic league titles. But tonight they'll have to visit the Tumba, where the atmosphere for European nights is always electric, as PAOK take on Victoria Pilsen in the Europa Conference League. With 15 minutes played, we're coming forward in the first highlight of the game. There is our left back high up the pitch, Unfortunately, he's given the ball away. We've got to win it back, and we've got our back three winning the ball for us, and we bring it forward through Maitziani. Now back with our defenders. Ingerson looks like he could be a little bit of a stalwart at the back for us, certainly captain material. And there is our Debelia-like French striker who we're hoping is going to get on the end of some chances. We've clipped the bar with our first effort of the game, and we fly straight into another highlight. We're building up from the back again. Here is Felipe Suarez, who could play, I think, as an advanced playmaker. And we might look at his role later on when we've assessed this squad a little bit more. We're going to see how they get on in this shape today. Sissoko feeds the ball to Suarez, and it's all the way back with Michailidis. Now it's into Civelli and Almiron, and we're over Bacuna. He's got to the byline and he sent it through, and this is the player, I think, who we're hanging a lot of our hopes on. Enzo Crivelli just taps home from about 6 yards out. I think it's Bacuna that's played the ball into him. He's not my starting right back, I don't think, but if he charges forward like that and delivers with such aplomb, he might force himself into the reckoning. We are racing our way towards half-time. It's been quite a quiet first half, that goalless side. In fact, we've probably just been shaded by our opponents in terms of chances during that game. They've had 6 shots and 3 of them on target, an XG of 0.5. They've performed a little bit better than us. I think we need to get in there and tell our players this game is not won, and we need a little bit more from them in the second period. So we've got plenty of players to keep an eye on. Some have got some very dubious body language, including some that are looking complacent. And we've also got some players that are still in pre-season mode, I think, and struggling for fitness. So we might need to make some substitutions fairly early in this game. Maybe in the wide areas, Almiron looks tired, and in central midfield, Suarez looks tired as well. They've launched their first attack of the second half. They've blazed one over the bar, but that is certainly a bit of a warning shot as we fly straight into another highlight. Bacuna, probably our most threatening player so far. He sends in a very deep cross. Crivelli was in there again, but he couldn't get on the end of the ball with recycled possession. And here is Sissoko. He's laid one forward. We've hit the bar for the second time this game. It's our right winger, Maitziani, who has thundered one against the bar. Now it's corner time, and we've got up. It's our centre-back, the Spaniard, 31-year-old Adrian Diguez, has managed to get us a 2-0 lead. I don't think we've particularly deserved a second goal. Not entirely sure we deserved a first, to be honest. But that's a pretty good header from the edge of the 6-yard box. And now, with 2 goals on the board, I think we can make a couple of changes. But our opponents are coming forward again. We're only on a balanced mentality. And I'm already thinking, do we need to drop it? Because I think they've responded. They've hit the bar. I thought that could have been offside, but it doesn't look like anybody's paying any attention to the linesman. This one's going to count. And they've got themselves an away goal. This is not our former player, Michailik. But that's a heck of a strike, and he has run in and tapped virtually into an unguarded net. And 2-1 is looking like a bit of a dangerous scoreline for us. We've got 20 minutes left to play. We've got highlights where we're giving the ball away. And Poulsen are coming forward again. They've delivered a ball over the top, and we've missed it, and they have let us off the hook. We cannot have players jumping underneath the ball like that. I am worried about this back 3 system. It's something we might look at, but I do like trying to find different ways to do things at each of these clubs that we arrive at. But maybe we might need to move to something a little bit more tried and tested if we're to make progress with PAOK. We've sent a long ball forward. Crivelli's dropped deep to pick it up. He's played it out wide. Bacuna has done all the running for us this afternoon, and he's laid another pass into Crivelli. This time he takes it with one touch. He fires it into the corner of the net with his second, but it's Bacuna again that's rampaged forward. I think Crivelli's actually the man that found him. It's like an elongated 1-2 as Bacuna plays it across. And I do think we have a striker that can score goals in Crivelli. 32 he may be, but he knows where the back of the net is. So we've made our final change of the game now. We've brought on fresh legs in central midfield. We've taken Suarez off. We've brought on a player called Rog, another Croatian player. We'll see whether he can get involved in the game for us. Here he is on the ball. He's played it out to one of our new wingers, Rots, and it's Bakuna again. He's played a ball in. I thought we had a shout for a penalty there, but instead Daan Rots, who I think is a Dutch winger, we bought him on in place of Miguel Almiron, and he's actually got involved in the game. It's Bakuna again causing all the trouble. I thought that was the penalty, but Rots curls an effort into the corner of the net. Now we're 4-1 up, and despite the little scare of that goal from Pilsen earlier on in the game, 4-1 looks like a good opening performance. We are worryingly behind them in terms of XG, so I think there is still a little bit of work to do. What should we say positively? We were efficient with our shots. So maybe 4-1 was a little bit fortuitous. I think we've got a little bit of work on our hands in order to progress, even though we do have a 3-goal advantage. If we can squeeze past Victoria Pilsen, we've got Shakhtar Karabandi or Lokomotiv Plovdiv in the next round. But if you're eager for your own European adventure in Football Manager, we've got loads of videos on the channel that might just inspire your next Football Manager adventure, starting with this one right here.